Hello, I'm Kate James and I lead communications for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. For those of you who may not be familiar with our work, we are a family foundation driven by Bill and Melinda's belief that all lives have equal value. In the US, we focus largely on education, but around the world we work on development issues, from the eradication of polio to helping millions of small farmers out of poverty. Of course, none of our work would be possible without the support of our partners, and it's great to see some of them in the room today. Brazil is increasingly an important partner for the foundation. Last year, we signed an agreement with the Brazilian government to work on health and agriculture projects together. Our aim is to accelerate the use of technologies in developing countries to help millions of people improve the quality of their lives. So, to social media. What really excites me about social media at the moment is the power of the global conversation. It's the power of social media to connect global decision makers with people in some of the poorest communities in the world today. At the Foundation, we've been thinking a lot about the power of the global conversation and how the conversation is used to engage and build communities online. Communities engaged in issues that we're passionate about and that center on development. These online communities are vital. We know that policymakers pay attention to them, and increasingly through the crowdsourcing of ideas and their ability to be able to connect with communities on the ground, they're also being able to find ideas and solutions to development challenges. So what I want to talk to you about today is what are the triggers? What are those big sparks that set off the global conversations? For us, when we think about development challenges, one of the issues is that they take a long time. The eradication of polio doesn't happen overnight. It takes years. So we need to build communities at scale, communities that will still have the engagement and the enthusiasm around our issues in years to come. You're probably wondering what this mass of dots has been that has been behind me all this time. What you see here is a snapshot taken immediately after the resignation of President Mubarak of Egypt in 2011. It's the social network response to his resignation, and each of those dots stands for a retweet. One of the challenges we face with development issues is that the progress we make is iterative. There isn't the catalyst, the big spark of a global conversation being started by the resignation of an Egyptian president in the heart of the Arab Spring. To take just one example, family planning. Family planning is a huge priority for the Foundation. In the developed world, many people don't see family planning as an issue. Women are fortunate to have access to contraceptives. But today, more than 200 million women in the world don't have access to contraception. In April, Melinda Gates came out and said that she would champion family planning for the next 30 years. And that creates quite a big communications challenge. Firstly, we needed to think about how to reposition the conversation on family planning so that it once more became a pivotal issue of development. And secondly, how to build the existing community to scale so there would still be the energy and the enthusiasm about family planning in decades to come. As I've said before, we can't do anything without our partners. So we started to think about partners who had really strong community bases and global reach. And we thought of TED. TED is a great partner for us. Dissemination of global ideas with great global reach. So in April, Melinda spoke at Berlin TEDx. The response was 196 meetings of TEDx communities around the world talking about family planning, and the issue trending worldwide on Twitter. It was the first step in repositioning the conversation about family planning. I want to show you a quick excerpt from Melinda's speech.
Poor families build a better future. We can insist that all people have the opportunity to learn about contraceptives and have access to the full variety of methods. I think the goal here is really clear: universal access to birth control that women want. And for that to happen, it means that both rich and poor governments alike must make contraception a total priority. We can do our part in this room and globally by talking about the hundreds of millions of families that don't have access to contraception today and what it would do to change their lives if they did have access. And I think if Marianne and the members of her women's group can talk about this openly and have this discussion out amongst themselves and in public, we can too, and we need to start now. Because like Marianne, we all want to bring every good thing to our children. And where is the controversy in that? Thank you.
But what the conversation at TEDx was all about was the first step, as I say, in repositioning the conversation on family planning. In July is the next important step. The foundation led by Melinda will partner with David Cameron and the UK government to bring together other leaders from around the world to set out an ambitious goal to pull together the funding necessary to provide an additional 120 million women with access to family planning by 2020. So partners are one way, of course, to spark the conversation. But we've also been thinking of other big sparks, triggers for that conversation. And one of those is competition. Some of you may be familiar with Grand Challenges exploration. This is a concept I really like. It's very simple. It's all about fostering innovation, unlocking creativity. And it's incredibly easy to be able to submit ideas for grants. A 2-page submission, and you can be awarded a grant of $100,000 for a great idea. You get traction with the idea, and there's an award of a potential $1 million or more. We've had grand challenges looking at specific issue challenges. We've had grand challenges looking at specific country challenges. We've had a grand challenges Brazil. To give one example of here in Brazil, last year we had a grand challenges to reinvent the toilet. And a mechanical engineering professor here invented the Lego latrine, replacing cement loos with latrines built on bricks of biocomposites. The first of these Lego latrines was built in Brazil earlier this year. So what Grand Challenges does is a great way of sparking innovation, of encouraging competition. One of the challenges that, of course, we have that undermines all our conversations around development is public perception, and ensuring that public perception remains positive towards the impact of foreign aid. Our research shows, though, that the stark fact is that public perception of foreign aid is very fragile, and that for every one negative story, 5 positive stories are needed to counter that negative impact. So what we've tried to do with Grand Challenges Communications that we launched earlier in this year was basically to encourage people to come up with new ideas, new ways of talking about aid effectiveness, about how aid works in the communities, and most of all, about how to create the sheer volume of stories to counter any negative perception of the effectiveness of aid. It's been phenomenally successful. We've had 1,000 responses in more than 85 countries, a great response here in Brazil and across the whole of South America. But we don't want the conversation to stop. A colleague of mine yesterday was speaking in Europe to some of the best creative minds in the world, asking them to think of ideas, to join the conversation, on Twitter at #ChangeTheWorld, and also to start working on their pitches for round 2 of Grand Challenges Communications. And that's why I'm here in Rio today, to talk to you, the development and technology community, to ask you to join the conversation on Twitter at #ChangeTheWorld, but more importantly, to think about what are those ideas that will make the difference in terms of the aid effectiveness conversation. Because after all, whether you are a blogger in Brazil or a development expert at the UN, we're all part of the same global community, and all of us have a responsibility to make sure that development stays at the center of the global conversation. Thank you.